the music in this is so fun, and I know one of the things that Shannon was actually telling us earlier is that usually they use like temp music to do some scenes, but this time he said he didn't want that. He wanted to start from the beginning of having, you involved essentially. So tell me about what that does, how that benefits your work, or how that kind of informs what you do next.
So it was one of the most interesting challenges of the whole process because the main reason, so I actually, sometimes temp can be your friend. So the reason to use temp is in executive reviews where you have to show your movie in a very raw, unfinished state. But if you're using a $3 million score from an amazing from an amazing movie people already love, it like helps with those executive reviews. So I was encouraging him, like, look, I need my time to do my thing. I've got an early start. Thank you. That's amazing. But like, just throw some temp in there so that like it protects you guys, right? It makes you guys look and sound good for the executive reviews, but let's not get attached to it, right? Let's make sure that the music I do oftentimes sounds so different from the temp. It was like, it's hard not to get to get emotional attachments to things, right? So, but starting early was this incredible opportunity to be inspired by art, like literally the concept art that turned into the poster behind me. It was this incredible digital painting by Sun Min In, which is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And to write music to a piece of art, just a static piece of art, was like one of the first times I've ever done that. It was just like so much fun. And writing music to a storyboard before it had been animated, before it had been like really cut, and before anybody had any preconceived notions of what the score could be. Shannon had all these amazing ideas about it being orchestra and 8-bit and Tim Henson and all that stuff, but that's not the actual music. The actual music is the notes and the sounds and the textures as they unfold and tell that sort of emotional narrative. And being able to do that with a blank slate where I'm influenced by all these different sort of primitive elements of the film as opposed to the final product. And then by virtue of starting early, my music could influence an animator or influence somebody else doing a different part of their job down the road. And it's messy. It's not clean. The whole process is meant to be kind of like a, assembly line. You do this, then they do this, then they do this. We all just rolled our sleeves up and we just kind of jumped in. And it was messy, but it's a testament to how good the team is that it worked. And that the music that I wrote to a painting, the music that I wrote to a storyboard is what you hear in the final film. So it actually worked somehow.
Yeah, I was it does make a difference. And you can kind of tell from the beginning because the pieces that are picked are so intricate to each person. Like we said, each person kind of has their own theme. Yeah. And I've heard of people kind of doing themes for characters, but I haven't really heard about them doing like one for the family and then kind of branching it out. Tell me kind of about the thought process behind it.
I've never heard of it either. I'd never done it before. I thought it was important because of the sprawling diversity of all the musical elements we wanted. We wanted shredding electric guitar, we wanted Japanese percussion, we wanted 8-bit video game consoles, we wanted a Japanese vocal synthesizer, we wanted a big Western orchestra. It was impossible. It was never going to work. It was going to fall beneath its own weight. So I had two ideas about how to make that work. One was to build the emotional core of the score around a single solo instrument, and it still makes me chuckle that I chose the harp because it's just not the first instrument you would think of. Build everything around the harp, and then just to try and make everything cohesive, let's have all of the musical themes be based on the family theme, and have, in some cases, like for Onda's theme, who for me is like the surprising character that I'm Team Onda. As much as he does the wrong thing, his arc is the most tragic and is the most, for me, emotional. And he's defined by the fact that his family was destroyed. It was ripped from him. He watched Gigantron kill his wife and daughter. I mean, this is heavy stuff. So let's have his theme be the same 4 notes of the family theme with one note slightly altered to sound a little bit more Japanese, a little bit more elevated, a little bit more emotionally complex. It doesn't fit in the happy, sad, axis. So it was really just an attempt, or it was just an idea of like how to bring all these diverse elements into one cohesive whole. And unlike a lot of my other clever ideas, it actually worked.
Well, I know that as a composer, you know that the silence can almost be as important as the music. So tell me about a time in the film where you thought, hey, maybe silence is better for this, or maybe we need to kind of scale back or kind of pull back.
A couple amazing moments that happened early and a couple that happened at the very, very end. So first of all, everything that I do and everything the sound team does is 100% driven by the story. And if the director and writer don't give us opportunities to be silent, we're stuck, right? So for example, one of the most welcome bits, if it wasn't pure silence, but of quietude, is in the middle of the biggest battle towards the very end. You have this brutal, really violent scene. And all of a sudden you cut to the most mundane scene in a car, stuck in traffic, on a bridge, it's raining. The kid in back is being a little bit too rambunctious, and driver, poor mom, is just trying to keep it together. She's with her mom. It's the most like recognizable, relatable, mundane scene. And it just gives us this pause, this break. So that was an idea that was written into the script. And so we have Shannon Tyndall to thank for that silence. Then there were these opportunities that Randy Tom, the sound designer, and I found during the mix process where we could really strip things back. Because if we don't breathe, if we don't let people breathe, then the more you do, the less people feel, right? So there were just a lot of moments where, instead of, an unfortunate tradition is to go into a mix and the composer just wants their music to be as loud as possible. Right. The sound designer wants their sound design to be as loud as possible. It's a loudness war. We were kind of doing the opposite. We were like, okay, I'm going to see if we can get rid of this sound a little bit early. And there was one idea that got rid of the sound. Most of my ideas were about getting rid of the music, to be honest. But there was one in particular. It's the moment that in the final battle where Ultraman realizes that he has to sacrifice himself to save his family and the people of Tokyo, and he turns. And the moment he turns, it's that like split, he gives himself like 2 seconds to think, and then he acts. And that decision, the sound of the rain, the sound of the air, the sound of the water around them just disappears. And it's just about a second long, and then the music starts. And then you hear a monologue, sort of flashbacks, as a really lovely sort of montage of dialogue that Randy and his team put together is really beautiful. And yeah, that moment of silence, even though it's just 1 second, it kind of takes your breath away.
Well, there are several breathtaking moments. Thank you so much for taking time to talk with me.